Welcome to the Silhouettes of Success podcast with your host, successful entrepreneur, broker, and business mentor, Amber Weitzer. Because success comes in all shapes, sizes, and styles, the Silhouettes of Success podcast is shining the light on industrious women with a collection of curated conversations of intentional inspiration designed to inspire your heart, ignite your mind, feed your soul, and gift you with actionable insights directly from inspirational, everyday women who've shown tenacity, grit, and grace, having taken on the challenges in their lives and business and won. Remarkable, down-to-earth, and relatable, Amber and her guests will share with you uplifting and extraordinary real-life success stories, motivational ideas that just might help spark something within you. With the deepest desire to serve you, help you grow so you can begin to shine the light that will illuminate your very own silhouette of success. So, let's get to it.
Hello and welcome to the Amber Weitzer podcast, Silhouettes of Success. Our VIP featured guest is an accomplished Fortune 500 sales executive and entrepreneur with more than a decade of business development and corporate account management experience. She's a graduate of Vanderbilt University with the BA in 2010 and MBA from the University of Arkansas in 2016. She has worked for major corporations, currently with PepsiCo, and has managed some of the world's largest brand leading retailers such as Walmart and Amazon. She made a bold decision to become a franchise owner of PJ's Coffee of New Orleans by opening a North Dallas location in February of 2021. She's been featured on some phenomenal media, and we'll let her share all of those great details with us in full. In late 2021, she also created Protégé to Pro, which I believe is a podcast that she's going to talk about with us and share all that greatness and the brand to arm entrepreneurs and career professionals with a wide range of guidance, of thought leadership on franchising, small business management, and career advice and words of wisdom, best practices, the whole shebang. So I am so thrilled and giddy to bring you Brittany Willis. Hello, Brittany.
Hello, Miss Amber. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for taking time today. So excited to connect with you and allow you to share your Silhouette of Success journey with our audience.
Yay, I look forward to it.
Excellent. All right. So sometimes we kick it off with saying, okay, illustrate the shaping of your early silhouette and your background. But you have so much that I think I saw. Okay, audience, full disclosure, Brittany, I saw you on. I think it was, well, of course, it was a local here. I think it was WFAA when they were interviewing you in your coffee shop. Yeah. So let's go backwards a little bit. I'm going to turn. Yeah. So talk to us about your franchise opportunity and how you came into that.
Yeah. So I had long considered franchising just as I kind of knew there was more in me than just that one path that most of us do take, which is, again, very respectable, which is, you have your career, you do your thing in your career, you might switch, functions, industries, but that's pretty much the lane that most of us, stay in. But I said, I really feel like there's more that I can be doing, that there's more in me than just that. It's not an or, it's an and. And so when I was thinking about just, how much I love business, I love what I do. I love financial forecasting, and I love, taking a white space and turning it upside down and creating opportunities and negotiating and working with some of the, most amazing retailers and retail partners that, I think are out there. And I said, I really think, there's an opportunity for me to be my own, my own business, my own brand, if you will. And so franchising was very attractive to me because of the support structure that exists and, that blueprint, if you will, that you receive by way of, gaining licensing into, a broader structure. I knew for me that it was important that I was a part of a franchise that gave me a world of autonomy, that allowed us as the franchise owners to really be the owners and the pulse within our individual locations. And I definitely found that in my current franchise, or PJ's of Coffee.
That is awesome. So exciting. And we share different stories about our silhouettes and their journeys and their paths. So I wanted to start with that and go backwards
Yeah.
because, again, immediately, as soon as I saw that with you and just your charisma and all of that, I thought,
Aw.
I have to know her.
Aw, thank you,
I
Miss.
have to know this lady. All right, Milady. Okay, so to help the audience understand a
Yes.
little bit about your background, go
Yeah.
ahead and share. We shared some things in the intro, but we always want to leave it up to the silhouette to share what she wants about that. So take us through the early shaping of your journey.
Of course, I would be completely remiss if I did not start with essentially the foundation with which I come. I always say I come from a family of just amazingly strong women, a family of matriarchs that, I grew up knowing the capability and the full strength of womanhood because I saw it in my grandmother. I saw it in my mom. I saw it in my great aunt, my aunts, my cousins. I mean, I was completely surrounded by it. So girl power was a thing in my household before the Spice Girls came out. You know what I mean? And so I think that, I was on a podcast recently and I talked about just the importance that confidence and also representation, plays, especially as a Black woman. I know that I'm very privileged to have had exposure to, elders who not only are college educated, but I mean, master, terminal degree, doctor, I mean, the list goes on, right? And so for me, I'm just so grateful to have, like I said, been reared in an environment where the sky was literally the limit. My grandmother wrote in my first Bible, "The sky is the limit." And at a young age, I was like, that's interesting. The sky has no limit. And she was like, yeah, duh. And so, my mother and my grandmother were just maniacal about, oh my gosh, about education. Oh my gosh, about doing your best. My mom always said, if a C is your best, then, that's great. I will applaud you, wipe the tears and keep going. But if an A is your best and you get a B, that's not okay. And as you can see, it's not about the range, it's about doing your best. You know what I mean? And so I just wanted to give credence to that because that is just such a huge part of who I am. Now, my grandmother and my mom will also say that I have, quote, been like this my whole life, which is type A, very driven, very organized, very meticulous. I mean, I definitely had my eye on the prize very young. Around, middle school, I knew that business, the field of business was something that was interesting to me. I think AOL was out then. I don't think Google was even out. I think it was AOL and Yahoo were out. And I was in my mother's office one Saturday morning I was like around 13 or 14. And I was just researching just business and business. At 13, I have no idea what that means, right? Business and management and marketing and product management. And okay, if I want to do this, okay, so MBA, I have to have an MBA to do it. Okay, if I want to work at the best company, okay, I probably should get an MBA from the best school. Got it. Okay, if I want to get an MBA from the best school, I should probably go to one of the best undergrad, and just kind of like really just kind of making my strategy and my playbook for myself, right? To get to where I wanted to go. Because as you see, I always want to be a part of the best. I want to be a part of the best, and I want to also bring my best and to elevate what that means. And so that's just really, the foundational stages of just kind of where it's been. My husband, jokes all the time that he's like, I've never met anyone like you that had it figured out at 13 and kind of execute the playbook. But I will say that I have definitely departed from my coveted playbook in the last 3 to 4 years because entrepreneurship, in addition to a full-fledged career, was not on my radar at 13 years old.
Oh my gosh. So at 13 years old, you are online. Yeah, I'm going to agree with him on that. But that's why I think there's different things. That's why we're drawn, right, to each other.
Mhm, mhm.
Because all of these different things, we're like, wait, tell me your story. What do you mean? What are you talking about at 13? So prior to that, think back a little bit. Creative play. Were you playing store, office? Were you doing those kinds of
Oh
things
my
even
gosh, great
before
question.
13?
Yes, all of the above.
Uh-huh.
I had the
Okay.
lemonade stand. I was the
Yeah.
kid. I was president of my middle school. Actually, to
Uh-huh.
this day, long story short, there was one particular vendor that we used for our Thursday Donuts Day, and I looked around and I surveyed my class, and I was like, no one likes this. And I went to the administration, the top administration of the middle school, and I said, hey, can I change that? Can we change this? And they were like, sure, but it could be a lot of work. I was like, yeah, okay, and literally worked to facilitate I don't know if it still is in existence, but worked to facilitate the kind of the agreement with which Krispy Kreme would be our donut vendor on Thursdays. Like, I've never known no. You give me a barrier, thank you, actually, because I'm gonna bulldoze through that thing, and I've been doing that since that age. But just even from a leadership standpoint, like I said, president, middle school, I served on I was chaired a disciplinary board, in my high school, captain of basketball team. When I was at Vanderbilt, there was a lot of those, auxiliary groups, right? You have, the law, the national, I think it's National Society of, Black attorneys or lawyers. There was one for engineers. There was not one for Black students interested in business. So I researched, and what did I say? I said, oh, National Black MBA Association. That's cool. Reached out to the president and said, hey, I'd like to bring a chapter to Vanderbilt. And they were like, let's do it. And, we met for coffee in Nashville when he was in town. And the rest is history. And the chapter is still live, at Vandy. So that's just always been me. I mean, it's kind of like, I see a problem, I solve it. If I walk into a situation where, things are great, I'm looking for how to make it better. But that kind of enterprising behavior, absolutely, I have had my entire life.
Okay, there's a couple common themes that I'm hearing, coffee being one. You can solve anything over coffee with coffee, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. The eye on the prize. And I'm seeing that. Oh my goodness. Okay, milady, the alarm clock goes off and your work or business day begins. What does a day in the life look like for you? Are you structured? I hear some systematic type A
Yeah.
yeah, you've already admitted to that. But do you have a routine? Do you have more of a spontaneous vibe? Talk to us about
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I think living the 9 to 5preneur life, as I kind of call it, I think there are absolutely pieces where there are structure. I would say the most important piece is that 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. is dedicated to my career. That I'm a professional. I love what I do, and my commitment to myself and my organization is obviously to that. That doesn't need to change. So that's probably the most structured that I have. My 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. and my 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. Yeah, we'll see what's up that day. I think that those are the pieces where I truly don't have, it just depends on the day. I get a phone, on Labor Day of this year, my husband and I, it was like 4 o'clock, and I got a text from one of my managers saying one of our espresso machines wasn't working. And I was like, oh my God. And like completely changed our day, my next day, you know what I mean? So it's just like,
Yep.
and I think you have to understand, obviously an espresso machine's a big deal. That is a significant money driver. So that becomes an immediate priority. If we're saying that maybe one of my, more ancillary items or things like that, are having an issue, that can be worked around. But there are absolutely some things that require me to get there or to immediately find a resolve. But for the most part, going back to my day, I wake up and, I'm very much a inspect what you expect. And then there's pieces of it sometimes where I'm like, Brittany, when are you going to stop doing this? But I check my email, made sure my store was disarmed, that it was disarmed on time, that I'm not getting any alerts that, team members are late or aren't there. I probably check in on my sales 1 or 2 times before, I clock in, air quotes, to the 9 o'clock, to the 9 to 5. Obviously, as a coffee shop, we do about 40 to 50% of our volume before about 10 a.m. actually. So before I'm clocking into work, I have a really good feel as to, how our day is going, how we're stacking against certain metrics that I empower my management team at my store to kind of, take control of. And then, I'm fully zoned in. If I do have a lunch break, if I can get away, I might go by the store and check in on my managers in case they need me. But most days I'm actually kind of able to stay kind of tuned out, if that makes sense. I have an amazing management team who's got it. But then, yeah, I also have an administrative assistant, who is also the individual that's kind of keeping things going for me during that 9 to 5. So she's corresponding with business partners and just the gamut. And then by the end of the day, I'm looking at her, what we call it, daily roundup, to understand kind of what things need my priority, need my attention as I transition to the 5 to 9. So, and I usually around 7 or 8, I try my best to switch gears off back into wife mode. I do the best I can. My husband and I are both very ambitious, and we're both working on our own things, but my marriage is always the most important thing to me. And he's given me a world of grace in the last 2 or so years as I've continue to just pound the pavement to kind of, live my dreams and really reach my full potential. But I really try my best to keep my marriage nurtured. So around 7 or 8, I'm really looking to kind of close the laptop if I can, if there's no burning platforms, and just kind of watch a movie, DoorDash, because I don't cook anymore, but yeah, that's what a day looks like.
Yeah, it's like, okay, take a breath, right? Okay,
Mhm.
audience, did you hear that? It was very structured and methodical, and
Is
it
it? Okay, I'm
would
glad.
expect,
I feel
yeah,
like that
would
sometimes.
expect no less. I know. Well, yes, because again, we don't see behind that curtain, right? What's going on the minute by minute and we talk about that. We always, in the days and times that we're in, when we see, and well, we see what we are able to see with social media and all these different
Mhm.
things and what's going on, and we see you on a daily, but none of us ever get to see what is going on the individual's curtain, right? I
Mhm.
mean, the hustle and the minute by minute and second by second, but all in all, the structure that you shared is a great blueprint for our audience to hear too.
Why,
Because
thank you.
in all, yeah, no, thank you. In all the entrepreneurs, I've not heard it so laid out. Again, not surprising. So thank you for that. But that is a really awesome schedule, how you've got that.
Well,
So
thank you. You filled my cup up, because I think, and then, and I appreciate that, because to your point, when you're in it, I'm always critiquing myself. Like, is this the right thing? Am I, and
yeah,
I think there's always room for improvement, but,
right.
am I giving myself enough space to meditate or to unwind? I'm always criticizing something and, in my efforts to almost continue to optimize. But I really appreciate the outside looking in perspective of, hey, like, you do have some structure there. I think I needed to hear that. And we do. And entrepreneurship is so lonely sometimes, right? And it's not,
Yes.
we don't typically have business partners all the time, so it's really helpful, especially woman to woman, to kind of get that pat on the back. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So I'm going to skip around a little bit here.
Mhm.
So because that was a great segue into something I was going to ask you is, as an executive, but a business owner,
Mhm.
entrepreneur, where do you find support?
Yeah, great question. So let me start here again. Going back to franchising, that was a big reason why I chose that model, right? So I'm in 2 groups within our franchise that really enable us to move a little more quickly, answer questions, share frustrations. The list goes on. And frankly, that's probably answers half of the needs I have. Sometimes I'm like, why is this not working? Or where do I source this? Oh, here's the link. Yes, great, thank you. Those quick wins can make your day. You know what I mean? So just
Yes.
again, you could almost say just other entrepreneurs, right? By way of those in my system. I also, I'm a big believer in building local community. So within Dallas area, I actually have not formally joined. I'm almost like I'm a pseudo member. I need to. My admin keeps reminding me to fill out the form. But the Metro Crest Chamber in the Addison Carrollton Farmers Branch area is an amazing chamber and offers so many resources. From lunches to dinners to just a gamut of events. Women's business forums. So I'm just really big into especially as someone who has a storefront in the community. I'm literally in the community. I get the opportunity to meet. We're surrounded by schools. I get the opportunity to meet teachers and parents and students and just really, gel there. So you'll be surprised by just being open to building and receiving community, the type of support. Like even yesterday, a gentleman, I was on a call and I noticed him sitting there, but didn't think anything of it. That man was sitting there for probably 20 minutes. And when I got off the call, he walked up to me and he said, "Hey, are you Brittany?" And I said, "Yes." I'm like, "Oh God, what happened?" Well, you never know. We never know. I'm like, "Who needs what's going on?" But he said, "I didn't want to bother you, but I wanted to meet you. I've heard such great things about you. Da 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 da." And just like, and it was really, again, it was really helpful. Just those moments sometimes, just
Mhm.
business owner to business owner, kind of saying like, "Hey, I see you. Hey, if you need anything, here's my business card." Like those are just such big pieces of what gives that support structure. My village, as my personal village, again, my husband, my family that live here, I've had to tap them more times than not. I've actually employed some of my sister's friends for short periods of time, to help out. So again, an extension of my community. And then I would say beyond that is I really am intentional about, just as I was in my corporate career, about building that network of kind of, I'm gonna call it board of directors, other entrepreneurs from whether they're franchise owners, startups, maybe, they've exited. I mean, the list goes on, but my goodness, like anytime I have lunch with them, a phone call, an email, I am learning something. And just, I think the theme here is that, surrounding yourself by other people and other resources are how I continue to keep myself sharp. And also how I'm able to get support when sometimes it's just, hey, help me think about this a little bit. And then, actually, the last thing I would say too is going to be just your business partners, right? I have a CPA who's amazing, and I strategically picked the particular CPA that I have to assist me there. And I mean, the list goes on and on with the other business partners that help me run my business. So all of it really comes back to a intentionally curated community that can pour into me, and then I hope that I can pour back into as well.
It's always learning. You just said that. I always take these notes, right? Always learning. And that goes back to the 13 and 14-year-old and the growing up with the foundation of the matriarchs who are talking to you
Yeah.
and teaching you and leading by example. And oh
Yeah.
my gosh, such richness here. So talking about those opportunities, and you mentioned being a bulldozer. Tell me no. I love that. I
Please
can
do.
relate to that. Yeah, tell me no. Just the movie. I always think of this. I tell my kids this. Hancock, when
With
Charlize
Will
Theron
Smith?
says, yes,
Uh-huh.
tell me no or call me crazy one more time. Every time someone tells me no, she's what pops in my head. Say it
Yes.
one more time.
One no, please.
So I get it. Yeah. Tell me no. Go ahead. Tell me no one more time. But thinking through all of that and going through what you've gone through and building what you've built, and
Mhm.
as you continue to build, what could you share with our audience? Maybe some positive adjustments that you've made in your life or environment that helps support you in this growth of your goals and dreams?
Oh, I think what the biggest thing that comes to mind, is I want to say it now before I forget, is vulnerability. I think even with seeing the strength of the women that I grew up with, my mother, my grandmother, by way, you typically don't always see vulnerability, and it's not that it's, always being hidden or, put into the closet. It's just that the strength is what shows. I'm the eldest of three. There's so many things about me that mandate a lot of strength, a lot of provision, protection, list goes on. And I had to really learn to get vulnerable. And actually, being a business owner, forget I had to learn to get vulnerable. I had to get vulnerable every day. I need I need four people in the morning and three in the afternoon to show up for me. I need someone to get there on time. And like I said, disarm my store to make sure we're doing business on time. I need to make sure that, I'm trusting that these team members are operating by the systems and procedures that I have in place so that it can run like I am there when I'm not. Because as you're hearing, I'm an absentee, franchisee more or less, right? I have managers who are there every day. I'm not there every day. When you're in a business, especially like I said, that relies on other people, you're going to be vulnerable. I'm also vulnerable to, thousands of customers every day. I mean, we live in an age, it's not every day, excuse me, every week. But we live in an age where customer reviews and those stars mean the world. And so I've never felt more exposed in my life than I do as a business owner, especially one that's so public facing and things like that. And so it's been a really beautiful journey. And I have grown so much by becoming vulnerable, because I need help rolls off my tongue like butter. And maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I'd be like, I don't need help. No, one good and well, I needed help. You know what I mean? And I think that it's also reshaped what strength means to me. It sounds cliche, but vulnerability is strength. Knowing where something exceeds your capabilities and knowing who to tap to support you with that is valuable. So that's probably the biggest thing that I'd like to leave on that note, because I think that's so transformative. And I think women, we have to do so much bulldozing just in society as a whole to get equitable pay. I mean, to get the resources we need to get leadership positions at equitable levels that men are. I mean, the list goes on. And I think that we can be so comfortable being hard, being strong, that we forget the asset that being vulnerable is.
So true. So true. This next question could be considered a two-part question.
Hmm. Hmm.
Was there ever a time, one event that you can think of or key situation in your professional life that forced you to take a monumental shift within your business or career? And what was the result? Painful, positive, and how did it help you grow?
Yes, actually, it took put me on the course to where I am right now. Frankly, it was a huge shift, changed my life. I've worked for amazing organizations. I've had amazing opportunities, with Fortune 100, 500 companies, some of America's and the world's favorite brands, sitting across from major, retailers. Okay, so it's a very privileged career, very exciting career, and with that, you understand the weight. I've always understood the magnitude of what bosses and companies were entrusting me with. They're entrusting me with hundreds of millions of dollars by way of, an account's value, right? And so as that, I've always given it my all. Whatever it needs, I'm going to do that. I'm not, I'm joking about quiet quitting, but quiet quitting in the sense of like so far from that as it relates to just doing the bare minimum. Like, no, that's not my personality. And I think that, you know, I came across a situation where that was without a doubt abused. And looking back on it, and it was just such a toxic environment. And I think looking back on it, I'm really disappointed that, there could be individuals in leadership that could watch me, send 4 a.m. emails, 11 p.m. emails, knowing that that is quite literally what I had to do in order to manage the full scope of the responsibility that was put on me, right? I mean, we're on a bit, I'm on a business that was acquiring brands, and each brand that we acquired had one or two people who ran them. So every time that we're doing this, right, you're clearly collapsing one or two people's work onto one person and do that 4 times over. And here I am saying, hey, I love what I do. I want to keep growing this, yada, yada, yada. But hey, and I had a whole plan, like, hey, this is what I need to do this. This is how other companies have this type of, function structured. If I had one person here and one person here, we could really go do this. And was not getting that support and that prioritization, and was also not given the grace to, essentially adjust what some of the targets and goals were to meet this being a one-man show, if that makes sense. And so to answer your question, it was a severe level of burnout and a lack of being valued that really kind of made me sit back and say, what am I doing this for? And if I'm not doing it for myself, that's a problem. And it really just kind of shifted my mindset on my why. And I've said before, it wasn't that I wasn't willing to work hard or bend over backwards. I've been over backwards every day. I don't even know how many hours I work a day, but I do it with a smile on my face because I know my why. But doing it for an organization or, individuals that did not value or respect that was a no-go. And it just dove me so much further into just understanding my value and understanding the worth and the value that I bring to what I do. And when I did that, what came out was the fact that I was the common denominator in all of the successes and opportunities and achievements that I had brought to organizations and different brands. And I said that if I can do that for these brands, I can do that for me, and something that I can create, something that I can build a legacy upon and potentially hand down to my children. And so that just completely shifted me onto this course that I'm still on, as a 9-to-5preneur, kind of, why do I have to choose? And I think that, I told someone the other day, I'm so much more fulfilled in my career because I'm maximizing out what I'm capable of doing. And I wouldn't change it for anything in the world.
She is creating a dynasty.
Maybe, yeah.
You are doing it. Good for you. So speaking of that, and I want to be very respectful of your time this morning. So I'm watching the clock here.
No problem.
However, I want to get some things in with your permission.
No problem. Yeah.
I want you to share. Okay. Talk to us about Protégé to Pro.
Yeah. So Protégé to Pro.
Speaking of dynasty.
Yes. So, and even before I opened my coffee shop, I was always that person that was tapped for, hey, can you check my resume? Hey, can you help me with this project? Hey, can you help me reshape this presentation? I was always getting essentially requests to kind of coach and consult. So in certain ways, so I had that was always just like a real, just almost casual thing that I was doing. And then as I was documenting my journey on social media, really, with my franchise, especially opening during the pandemic, oh my God, my inbox was flooding with more questions and requests for insights. Can I meet you? Can we talk? That I could handle. And I realized I knew I was passionate about it, but I realized just how passionate I was about sharing what I know. And so I created Protégé to Pro, which has a mission to arm career professionals and entrepreneurs with Fortune 500 knowledge. It's something that I just love to do. I think small business owners are some of my favorite clients. Those who were starting up, just trying to get their mind around what was an amazing idea or product or service, but giving them that structure and that operational kind of know-how to really go about building something formidable and something that could sustain. Absolutely love doing that. I always say, I've gotten paid, to basically be trained by some of the the world's leading organizations by way of so many functional expertises, from strategy to operations to projections, to sourcing. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And that is what I bring to any audience who I come in front of. And so my first product on Protégé to Pro, I call it P2P, was my digital course. So you want to open a franchise? That was probably the question I was getting proliferated with all the time. And I just could not, I would give people 3 or 4, my best answers just for time. But I said, you know what? Let me package everything that people need to know before they even go talk to a potential franchisor, before they buy one, so that they know how to evaluate the opportunity. So I divide the digital course up into should I and can I. Can I is very much about the financial piece of it. The should I is really giving you an inside peek into just what does this really mean, the timing of it, the support structure of it, what your options are. And then, moving into the podcast, I had an opportunity that came my way, and I was like, oh, I can't turn that down, because now I can create a platform to do that, on a week or every other week basis. And so I'm still at the very infancy of my Protégé to Pro journey, obviously with balancing, a career and, a franchise. My time is limited, and I would like to do things in excellence, but I'm just slowly building that out and building a team that can help me continue to impact people and give them the knowledge that they need to succeed in their careers or to succeed with their businesses, or both.
Fabulous. Oh, okay. All right, milady, we all crave great resources that might help uplift or expand our minds. And now we know that we have definitely another resource, and we'll make sure we add in your links. Do you happen to have a favorite book or resource mentor that you'd like to share with the audience? If you do, what makes it a favorite?
Yeah. No, let me think about this. Favorite book, and I'm trying not to be cliche, is what I'm trying not to do.
No, just go for it. Just go
I
for it.
think
Tell us
so.
what.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna be so cliche. I'm sorry, everyone. I'm sorry. But this was a book that I read at a very critical point in my career. I think I was mid-20s plus or minus. Really, really just, grinding, doing my thing. But Lean In. Lean In was a book that really changed my perspective, because at that time I was also undergoing imposter syndrome. I've pretty much I was being promoted very quickly, moving through roles quickly. And then you get to a point where it goes from exciting to now, oh shoot, do I deserve to be here? I'm in rooms where I'm the only woman, the only millennial, the only, Black person. I'm the only all 3 of those, and really struggling with my sense of belonging and feeling, and when you shrink and when you don't have the confidence to be your full self, now all the value you do bring is now truncated, it's muddied, it's buried underneath that. And so that book, 'cause at the time, it's now called Next Up. I'm sure you might know, but the Network of Executive Women, which is very popular amongst my industry, consumer packaged goods. We were doing a speaker series, so we were doing kind of like not a speaker series, but like a little book club on the book. So I had the opportunity to read it alongside some of my business units, female leaders, and like I said, it really, changed the course of my career. That was a very pivotal point for me, and so whether you read the book or not, I think that I can say, imposter syndrome is a lie, it's a myth. And it's only a distraction. And I can say that now because I've been through it, and I know it's easier to say it on the other side. But I just want to make sure that, we know that resources like, for example, like Lean In, are out there to really help us feel quite literally comfortable leaning in and taking those seats at the tables that have been given to us.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. Oh, I just, yeah. I And also, next up, I think you are the second person here recently that I've heard about that from.
Hey,
Yes, awesome. All right, milady. As we begin to wrap up, and
yes.
it has been phenomenal visiting with you, so
No,
thank you.
likewise. Yes.
Oh my goodness. As I like to keep the promise with the audience to share intentional inspiration. Do you have a piece of key go to advice or wisdom that has either been shared with you over the years and generations, or that you have a favorite that you like to share? And I'll let you share that with the audience.
Yes, it's mine is this: you are the asset, invest in quarterly. So whatever that means to you, I hope that we recognize the value that we are and the asset that we are to our families, to ourselves, to our businesses, to our companies, and that we continually invest in ourselves. So it's intentionality, it's time, it's saying no, it's saying yes, it's meditating, it's sleeping without guilt. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And so I think it can take shape, into just different ways. For me, investing in myself after recognizing I was an asset was me going into business for myself and really maximizing the business capacity that I have. It's also me saying no to things, to make sure that I can keep my cup full and also, be here for my family and my husband. So that is just such a powerful, motivating piece for me that I carry with me every day. And I hope that serves as some inspiration to anyone listening.
Fantastic. All right, milady, the stage is yours. Where can our audience go to find and connect with you on your socials and support you in your continued success?
Oh, yes. Well, I am. So on LinkedIn, I am Brittany Simmons Willis, MBA. Simmons is my maiden name. So Brittany Simmons Willis, MBA. On Instagram, you can find me at the _Brittany Willis. And then we also have Protégé to Pro, which is at Protégé to Pro. It's website, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and podcast. So that'll get you to some of the nuggets that we have, especially within the podcast, where there's a lot of wealth of nuggets there as well.
Outstanding. And would you want to share the location of the coffee shop?
Oh, sure. That is important, right?
Hey,
Yes. So
we got to fill up all these
yes.
links.
So
Yeah,
yes,
go
I
ahead.
am. So actually, the Instagram and Facebook pages are PJ's Coffee, North Dallas. So we are located in the North Dallas area, outside of Addison and Farmers Branch, and we're about a mile from the Galleria. So most people know where the Galleria is. So yeah, right on Midway Road.
Fantastic. All
Yes,
right.
ma'am.
Brittany, it has been a sheer delight. You're so enchanting and just all
Oh,
this information, so valuable. Thank you for
thank
sharing your
you.
wisdom and experience in this small window. So I definitely urge our audience to go check you out and all of your links and resources and take advantage of that opportunity to
Thank you,
collaborate.
ma'am. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So thank you for sharing your silhouette of success with us. And it has been just a pleasure connecting with you.
Likewise. Thank you so much, Miss Amber. It was an absolute privilege and honor.
All right, my lady. Enjoy your day.
You
Thank
too. Bye
you. All righty.
bye.
Bye bye.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of the Silhouettes of Success podcast. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on all the new episodes. We are here for you and with you. We encourage you to share this podcast on all your socials and pass on the light to help illuminate another silhouette of success. To find out the latest ways to inspire your heart, ignite your mind, and gain actionable insights, subscribe at thesilhouettesofsuccess.com or connect with us on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. We're grateful that you've tuned in. Remember, you are exactly where you need to be, right here with us. This is the Amber Weitzer podcast, Silhouettes of Success.